I've been feeling like a shark in a shrimp tank. Big fish, small pond in the shrimp tank. When it's take a swim, only option is to win. In the murky water, not a thought of giving in. I've been feeling like a shark in a shrimp tank. Big fish, small pond in the shrimp tank. When it take a swim, only option is to win. In the murky water, not a thought of giving in. Welcome to the shrimp tank. Want to put it all together. This is big things. Doing big things. Chasing big dreams. Yeah, it's all real. This life's all that it seems. All the chicks scream. All the dudes yell. This is just what I do, and I do it well. With the flow fresher than the new shoe smell. Going through hell, but homie, keep going. You know the saying, you can reap what you sow in. So I don't chase girls. I just chase dreams. Play the same game, but we ain't in the same league. Running a campaign, Brody 2016. Like a phone to die, putting me in charge. I'm a general from the front, I'ma lead the charge. Like a federal, fell on my lap never. Going hard as ever.
Notes. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to another episode here on the Shrimp Tank down here in Boca Raton, Florida. We run the show in collaboration with the FAU Adams Center for Entrepreneurship. This is your first time tuning in. You can watch these episodes live, broadcasted on Facebook, my Instagram account at Shrimp Tank Boca, of course, and get to really see our guests, what they're all about. And of course, you're listening on audio. We are on all the podcast apps. And of course, we put our guests up on the website, Shrimp Tank Boca. And then, of course, call them on Owl. We're the only podcast that I am aware of, right, Kevin? Where you get to chat one-on-one with our guests. Do you know of another podcast that does that?
No. You can't get to the guests. It's too hard. They're too busy. It's too much trouble. But if you go on Owl, you can speak to our expert guest every single week. It's a great opportunity.
I know. Where else can you sit back and open up a can of Celsius beverage at home and chat with your guests one-on-one on Owl? That's what I say all the time.
Yeah, and it helps. It helps when you're busy, being able to reach right out and get a hold of somebody. And we're busy around here. So it's week 3, the veterans program and the boot camp. We've got some really promising fledgling veteran-owned business ventures. One in particular, a guy makes some really good hot sauce. So I've been enjoying some samples of that. Maybe we'll get into some samples today as well. It's a little early, but hey, why not? In addition to that, we have our big Innovate FAU event coming up on March 28th, just over a month away. Always looking for sponsors, partners, and anybody who wants to contribute or just come. It's a free event, open to the public, and it should be a good time out at Tech Runway, our new venture accelerator right here on campus.
Why free? I feel like every event that they always have is like $10, $100. It's the first time I feel like free to get in. And is there a cap?
Well, I give you a little bit behind the curtain, right? So there will be a cap on the people, but I expect it will sell out because it's going to be a pretty exciting event. We've got a lot of people that we want to be free anyways, right? Because we're doing this in conjunction with the FAU Tech Runway graduation, the big Adams Center annual business pitch competition. We're going to announce the winners and winners of the veterans pitch competition. So we have to let all those people in for free. So that's a lot of people. And then, if you do these things with sponsors, this is really behind the curtain, and I won't bore everybody with it, but if you give sponsors something that's free, it saves a whole bunch of paperwork. If you give them something that is valued at X amount of dollars, it generates more paperwork because they can't write off that portion for the IRS as a donation because it includes a ticket, and it's like I can't deal with. Let's just have a blowout event, make it free, but get registered if you want to come once that is available, and it's available now.
It is available. I need to register.
Yeah. So get registered, or you won't get in.
Oh, that's awesome. I like what they're doing over there because I was part of, I guess, the last or the second one prior to this one, and good events like that are so phenomenal. Where you get to meet investors, you get to meet other entrepreneurs that have been through that environment. If you're thinking about joining the FU Tech Runway, you're a founder. You're trying to raise capital. They teach you so many different things, and most importantly, the network. Right, once you go through that program, you get invited back to all these events.
Yeah,
first dibs on free tickets, first dibs on having a booth often set up there, and even part of these things like the pitch competition to be a judge. So it's absolutely cool, and even close to us. They want to get on the Shrimp Tank, of course. A long wait to get on here, 2-3 months out. And a lot of times we meet folks over there, and then they get that opportunity to talk to you and I, which we're hard to reach people. And then all of a sudden, we're like, yeah, come on the show, because there's nothing better than an in-person meeting where you get to handshake someone's hand and pretty much, really can understand what they're up to. And, a lot of these messages on Instagram and LinkedIn, it's like, we really don't know. A lot of people fake that stuff, of course. But let's get into our guest today. This is the podcast where street smarts and book smarts collide. So I'm going to let Kevin do the honors and introduce our guest today.
Oh, so our guest today is the CEO and founder of Fior Scotch, U.S. Marine Corps veteran, Major Eric Dominijanni.
Hey, you got it.
Something like that.
He just said it super quick.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I think he got it. He nailed
He
it.
got it.
He
He
did.
Absolutely. Well, welcome, Eric. Welcome to the show. In this first segment of the show, what we like to do is talk about your origin of becoming an entrepreneur. So, how did it all start out? How'd you end up here?
Okay, it's actually a very weird situation, just about happenstance. So when you're in the Marine Corps, I'm a New Yorker by birth.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Should
like
we
when-
shut the episode off already?
Ah,
Kevin, what do you think?
This happens on this show way too much. All right. I got to get more involved in the booking. No, that's cool.
That's okay, just like 1/3 of the population of Southern Florida. I'm a New Yorker by birth, but I joined the Marine Corps, and I was stationed in some places that we can say were a little bit, maybe perhaps behind the time, definitely culinarily. And then I wanted to be a chef. I'm half Italian, I grew up, having a very good, I would like to say, refined sense of taste. And you go to a place and you realize that you want to get something to eat, something to drink, and every time you go out, it's always not what you wanted. Hey, look, I'm not asking for the world, but can I have a haircut that's not crooked today? Can I have like a cheeseburger with no mayo and no mustard? Not a problem. And then the next thing you know, it comes with mayo. You got half of it right. I'm not asking for filet mignon, just no mayo and no mustard, and it just goes on. And I was stationed in a place called 29 Palms, the middle of the desert, 120-degree weather. Joshua, it's basically Joshua Tree, the best place you can eat. Comes with fries, everything comes with fries. So you start to get a little upset after a while, and all you want is what you ordered. So I was visiting some of my buddies. I spent a lot of time in Miami, working in the Caribbean, and I made it out to California. And I was in a bar. I was hanging out with my friends, and some guy comes up, and he's like, you guys in the service. And a friend started pointing at me. He's a Marine Corps. And he's like, I'd like to buy you a drink. Thank you for your service. And I was like, great. At first I thought the guy was hitting on me. Like it's, And then when I took one shot of what he gave me, I knew he wasn't hitting me because this was like the most horrible thing I've ever drank in my life. And I was just like, it literally left a bad taste in my mouth. And I was like, I can't drink this. This is just absolutely horrible. And I was just mad. I was just upset. And I was thankful, but I was just upset. And we're walking around and driving around throughout California. And my buddies are like, hey, calm down. So we get to a bar, and I just ordered some rum. Rum is safe. I know rum like the back of my hand. I worked in the Caribbean, like I said, for about, at the time, 3.5 years. And then this guy's like, I'm like, what do you have for rum? And he just had like basically well. And I'm like, is that all you got? The guy's like, dude, this is a Scotch bar. And I look up, and there's like 100 scotches.
Huh.
And I was like, wow. I think it was in Huntington Beach area. And I was like, holy cow. And he's like, yeah, this is a Scotch bar. So I threw out my credit card. I said, hey, teach me. He said, what do you mean? I go, teach me. I know nothing about scotches. I know rums like the back of my hand. I know this. I know that. I'm a chef. But I know absolutely.
And how long ago was this?
2000, after 2012. So
Okay.
between 2012 and 2014. So I was like, and he was like, are you serious? And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. So he starts pouring me, okay, here's a shot of this, and you need to drink this with water. This is good, whatever. This is a Highland, this is a Speyside, and these are the attributes. So I was there probably for about 2 hours on a tutorial with this guy, and he was just so happy to pass knowledge down to me. That was like the greatest part. I was happy because I was learning something, but when you saw how happy this guy was to like, there's a guy who's actually interested in something that I absolutely love. So I left the place with a great taste in my mouth and a newfound, I would say, appreciation, I won't say a love, for scotches.
All right.
Scotches, bourbons, whiskeys, because it all eventually one led to the other. And I got home and I started my collection of scotches, whiskeys, things that I liked. I won't say they were all the best scotches or whiskeys in the world, but they were things that I enjoyed. I tried some great ones, some ones that I didn't appreciate too much. And eventually I decided to make I have dinner parties in my house all the time, probably once a week. And I wound up creating a legacy bottle or an infinity bottle. And for those of you who don't know what that is, imagine a bottle, usually of your favorite brown liquor. And you start off with a baseline. Like, I really, really like this base. This scotch was like really just, it has like all the elements I'm looking for. And then, I really, really wish it had a little bit more peat or a little bit more smoke or a little more salinity or brine to it. So then you add, 2 fingers or 1 finger of the remaining, Scotch, and then you keep adding over time. So I had a Scotch collection for, a couple of years, and I started my infinity bottle. And after a year or so, that was filled, and then I broke it open.
And was this all while you were in the Marines?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Started that way, but it continued when I got out.
What is their rule with drinking, by the way? Like
You can drink
throughout the week, for example.
I
Is it
can
like, do
drink.
they
Just
say,
can't, well, I can't show up to work drunk. It's like
course not.
I can have a glass of wine for dinner. I can have a beer, after work, but don't show up drunk. Drink.
Yep.
Don't get drunk. It's just show up like it's a normal job. You can't. We're entrusted with the lives of Marines. With $1 million, several $1 million pieces of equipment that will crush everything in your path. You can't come to work hungover. You will hurt somebody. You will kill somebody. So you have to drink, but drink responsibly. It's
All right, pretty simple.
yeah, it's logic. So I wound up coming up with the infinity bottle. I cracked it open for my friends, and they absolutely loved it. Most of the Marines absolutely loved it. And unfortunately, I started noticing the bottle was getting lower and lower and lower. It wasn't getting any higher. So I'm like, okay, there's got to be a way. I don't want to add anything more to it because it's perfect. And I just said, wait a minute. My uncle Luciano, who lives in Miami, he makes his own wine. He's I want 43% this or 22% this. And he,
oh, look at that accent there. Just brought out your Italian.
There we go.
There it is.
And he basically orders it from a California vineyard, and they make him his wine. He gets a few cases every year, and everything was great. My old boss, Colonel Augustine Bolaño, he makes his own cigars. He says, I want a Connecticut wrapper with a Honduran fill, this gauge, this shape, this length, and he orders several cases a year. I figured they could do it. I could do it.
Yeah.
But where do you start? Exactly.
That's the hardest part. Everyone's got an idea, but where do you start? Who do you speak to? And how do you really get the ball moving? So
you just really wanted this just for you, though, at this time.
It was for my friends. But
we're talking about a few cases.
Exactly.
Not a go-to-market, whole kind of thing. You just want it made.
It was supposed to be nothing more than a house Scotch for my friends, my family. Never intended on leaving the house. And then I remembered I had a good friend of mine who I see every quarter in Miami. We went to college together. And he was one of the people who helped develop and raise, basically not create, but he's in the alcohol importation, exportation business about 4 generations. You might know one of his alcohols, Hypnotic. His father was the one who brought Finlandia to America. So he's, really, really deep in that sense. So I called him up, and I was like, Jim Landis. I was like, hey, Jim, are you still in the alcohol business? And he's like, are you still cooking? I was like, yeah. And I explained to him, I'm like, listen, I just wanted to know if I can get like a couple of cases of this a year. How would I do this? He's like, I'll be done in a couple of months. Let me go check it out. Stop drinking it. Capped it. He comes down, tried it. He's like, wow, this is some, pretty good juice. Yeah, I can bring it. He takes the bottle and he disappears. And several months later, he shows up with a few vials or tasters. And he says, okay, what do you think? And I did, the first one was good. Second one was amazing. And the third one was really good. So he's like, which one do you like? I like the middle one. He's like, that's the closest we were able to get to duplicating your Scotch. So we wound up going into, I won't even say production. I had about 6 cases, and I opened it up for my friends, and they loved it. Absolutely. They were like, this is amazing. I mean, where can I get a bottle? I'm like, it's not for sale. So, well, I'll buy a bottle off of you right now. I'm like, it's not for sale. I mean, I would charge you for dinner if that was like that kind of person, but this is.
And what was the cost to just get that first round?
Without going into details, let's just say that
give us in a ballpark.
It is extremely more expensive to make a small batch of Scotch than it is to go.
So funny enough, I got involved in a beverage for a short time this summer before we learned some of the things. So I got a bunch of questions for you. And we mixed it. It was a tea infused with like cane sugar, Florida key lime, and then vodka. And it was carbonated. and it was fantastic. But yeah, just to get like what the equivalent of a 12-pack, it was like $480.
Because then you have to realize.
Well, it's being custom made, right? It's not a full
Mhm.
production run. They're gonna have to like make the assembly line to make it for you. It's the most expensive 12-pack I could imagine.
And you have to take into consideration to make a Scotch, it has to come from Scotland. So there's import. It was ridiculous. But I had my my Scotch. My friends loved it. They told me, "Hey, can you get this? Can you get us a couple of bottles? We'll buy some." And so I called up Jim Landis again, and I said, "Hey, listen, my friends are really asking me, and I'm starting to look at this. I know it's good, but you're the expert in alcohol, not me. Do you think that it's good enough that I can get out of this house, that I can move out, get it to the general public?" And he says, "Listen, man, you have a pretty good product. It's legit. With the right marketing, with the right people behind you, you can get it out there and then market it." And here we are now.
Yeah.
I mean, that sounds so easy. That is not.
No, it's not. It was luck.
It is so complex to get it that first bottle.
It
Right?
was
And get the first one to sell, and
Yeah, so let's
logistics, and let's
get
dive
in. Yeah, absolutely. Having my recent experience where I woke up from a crazy dream of like, wait a minute, what are we doing? So luckily I got out before we got too far in. What's the minimum production run?
well for what we started off with my initial, which was 6 cases. But that
okay.
was just for me. That's not a production run.
Yeah,
Currently
that's
went
at the crazy cost.
Right.
Yeah.
We went up to we did 3,000 cases this year.
How many are in a case?
Those are 6-pack cases.
Okay.
So 6-pack cases, and then prior to that,
it's a big investment, right?
yes.
Yeah. When we were looking at cans, the minimum is 30,000 units. So not quite as bad, but still
Right.
pretty serious investment. And then my big question, which we could never figure out how to solve, right? A lot of people don't understand some of the challenges with alcohol. It's actually relatively easy and somewhat inexpensive to develop a beverage, the actual fluid that goes into the drink. And then you've got, your packaging, which is highly regulated. So that kind of works itself out. You get to pick some of the designs, work with graphic designers. A few weeks later, like you got a thing, but distribution is a nightmare. There's all these rules about you can't do this, you can do this. Oh, you can't sell it like that. You can't store it there. Well, they can't drive it there because it's like, okay. So how did you address those issues and figure out some way to actually sell this to the market and get it distributed or sold directly?
All right. So I had one thing that a lot of people, especially a lot of entrepreneurs, just don't have. I had an ace in the hole, my buddy, Jim Landis. When I tell you that I got this, I'm here because of luck. That is not an exaggeration. I actually knew the right person at the right time, and he's a person I trust very, very well.
But I'm going to call that out. That's not luck. You were a good person to that individual for a long time.
Yes.
And people don't just wake up and help you.
Right.
Right. It's because you've done a lot of things, I'm sure, behind the scenes, back in Brooklyn, back down here in Miami, and you were always a good person. And that person then said, something, I get back to good people. Like, can you speak to that for a moment and then jump into?
It's actually very funny. It's very funny you say that because I was in New York about 2 weeks ago, and I was talking to him, met his family, a bunch of people that we went to college.
Sure.
And then they were talking about, I was like, okay, here's a bottle. We were introducing it to his family, and they like it. And he's like, this is my friend Eric. He's my business partner. Like, oh, this is the guy, blah, blah. And it's like, and it was almost like a mafia movie. Like he was like, he's one of us. You can trust him. And I felt like so like, wow.
Bring him in the back.
Yeah, it was like, and she gave me a big hug. She's an absolute sweetheart. But the way he spoke about me that day, it's he knows a lot of the things I went through in the Marine Corps. We've known each other for quite a bit of time, and he's we reconnected years before, at least 10 years before we came up with this product. And the amount of trust that he has in me and I have in him is not something that you develop in a day.
Yeah.
You get to know a person through you really truly get to know a person, not when things are good, but when things are bad.
All right. So I see. I was hoping for a solution to the distribution challenge, but you have a more personalized solution.
Yes,
know somebody.
Right. So here's everything that I've experienced. This is not necessarily a solution. All right. So when you're in the alcohol business, and remember, I'm not an expert. I have people who are way smarter than me, way more experienced than me. These are things that I picked up from the Marine Corps, basic leadership training. No person can know everything. So surround yourself with people who are smarter, more experienced, whatever than you, and you'll go where you'll go far. So when in the alcohol business, every state has different laws. There's different tiers. Like in this state, I could sell directly to the consumer. In another state, I have to sell to you. So you could sell to you and then you sell to the consumer. And it goes on. And it gets even worse because every state has cities and every cities have counties. This city might have alcohol, but this is a dry county. Yeah. This city has a 2-tier. This one has a 3-tier. So this one, here's a great one. There's some states out there where if I sell it to you, you're my distributor, I have to stay with you for the life of that product. Excuse me, for the life of that product, I have to stay with him. I can't switch. So if he starts doing a bad job,
crazy, right?
I can't move.
Yeah,
so
that's not really
all that a monopoly.
Not the free market economics that we teach here at FAU's College of Business. Right. It makes things very inefficient, right? Because ideally, and just for those who may not be following along, right? Like that's extremely difficult because like you want to probably end up with the biggest distributor you possibly can, but that would mean either starting with such a massive investment or in an ideal world, you start with a smaller one and then you prove the product and then but if you can't switch to a bigger distributor when the time comes, like that's a major challenge.
And then with some of the distributors that are out there, you have like push and pull type of logistics. So for example, you might have a company goes like, hey, I want to get a product out there. I'm great. I've been doing this for 30, 40, 50, 100 years. That's awesome. But I don't want to work too hard. I'm only going to work with companies that everyone already knows. So imagine with your favorite vodka, your favorite, tequila, your favorite rum. It's like, I don't have to sell that. They're already established and they sell themselves. I'm the new guy. What that requires from these people, they have to get up and go out and say, you need to try Fior Scotch. I know the guy personally here, try a sip. That requires effort. Some people don't want to put the effort. So what does that mean? You have to put the effort. You have to go out there with the distributors. And when they go out to a liquor store, you knock on the door with them. The liquor store already knows the distributor. They already have a relationship with them. And then you have to use your charming personality, your great product, the pretty bottle or whatever it is you have to catch their attention, show them that it's a great deal. It's a great product, a great price, and that it's like specific people are maybe going to support that. And that's what I did.
That's just to get it into the store. Mm-hmm. Once it's in the store, it also needs some supplemental marketing, pushing, buzz, awards like yours has, because then you got to get it off the shelf and out the door of the store after you had to work that hard to get it into the store.
And you think a guy who owns a liquor store who has 1,000 different types of alcohols is going to say, hey, you need to
let me put this one up front and promote it, like as opposed to a massive brand with an seemingly unlimited budget. Yeah,
so tough. You have to go out there. You have to put the shelf talkers or little tags that say Fior Scotch, 93 rating from here. It's got a double gold from San Francisco and New York, world spirits competition. You have to put the tags or give it to them, and hopefully they put it there. You have to go there when you see someone. Hey, sir, would you like to try a sip of this? This is Fior Scotch. It's a Highland and Speyside blend. Blah 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 blah. And then when that person sees it, he's like, "Wow, this is pretty good juice." People.
So let's talk about that for a moment, because often everyone, sees, what's on social media, but they don't see behind the scenes. Let's talk about your work ethic for a moment, showing up on time, doing what you say. You're part of the Marines, like how that helped you be the entrepreneur you are today. But those things behind the scenes, like showing up, like what is your schedule?
It seems like he's a showing up early kind of guy.
What is your schedule like?
We take the podcast as an example.
Yeah, I showed up. Number one, show up on time. I don't care if I'm going to hire you. If you're one of my lieutenants when I was in the Marine Corps, I don't care if you're going to paint my house. I don't care if you're going to wash my car. If you don't show up on time, you don't have the job.
Wait, that happens in Florida? They show up on time?
Yeah, no one. That's the big difference between Miami and Florida. I'm sorry to Floridians, New Yorkers, and I'm also in the military. We are sticklers for showing up on time. If you're not 15 minutes early,
Kevin can't handle himself down there. Slow down. Slow down.
So I'm, you know, as a Florida native, like I guess I've given up because like when contractors come to my house, I'm satisfied if they show up.
Yeah.
I've given up on time. It's like nice. They came the day they said they were gonna come. Sweet.
Yeah, I'm still trying to get my house done. I have a project that's only taken 5 years to get done.
Well, I mean, since you fire everybody, I presume because they show up late, it's gonna be tough.
Yeah, pretty much. I just don't deal with it because if a person shows up late, what does that tell you about that individual's work ethic? They don't care. Oh, if you were able to show up late, that means you have so much money, you don't need my business, right? If you show up late, that means you're not going to get my job done on time or to standard. And that's how I look at it.
Yeah.
Okay?
And you know, we can probably put you in touch with some past guests that, you know, we have had a lot of guests on the show that really pride themselves on running their business that way. And some of them I've used their services and they are on time. And some of them come at a premium cost, but like, you know, you're going to get it done. You're going to get it done right. It'll save you time from interviewing and getting quotes or not getting quotes and people missing meetings. You just say, I'll just call them. It'll cost a little more, but it'll be done right. And, you know, that's how a lot of consumers are.
So if you want to catch my attention, if you want me to employ you, you want me to hire you for a job, whatever that job is, number one, you show up on time. Number two, look and speak professional. That means if I'm hiring you to paint my house, you can show up with paint and blah, 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 blah. And I don't want to hear you say, I'm going to put a little thing here. Use the proper language. Use the proper slang associated with your profession. It's not hard. If I'm going to hire you to do, you know, white collar work, I expect you to show up with a shirt and tie, or at least the cultural equivalent. I'm wearing a guayabera. It's too hot to wear a business suit in Miami. I can't wear it.
That's right. I'm wearing a jacket with what is essentially a workout shirt,
Yeah.
which is my uniform.
Which is completely fine. So that right there shows me that you actually care about, you know, you are a professional. You actually care about what you do and what you're going to do for me. So those are like two things, just, you know, the very beginning, the very basics.
Okay, so back to your schedule though. Give us like, do you work 7 days
I'm
a
retired.
week? Do you work 4 days a week? Kind of how do you get out there and get things on the shelves, get your brand in front of more people? Because most of these brands fail.
Okay,
99% of liquor brands,
It's
beverage
not
brands like
that bad.
Celsius.
It's only 96%.
My bad,
According to my recent
My
research
bad.
this summer, it's 96%.
You could tell Kevin has scars, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
We want to bring Kevin in. He might.
Yeah, there we
be a
go. Put him
partnership
over here.
right
Yeah, exactly. Well, my understanding, there's nothing more difficult to do than revive a dead spirit. Okay. So once your alcohol fails, there's no coming back. You know, that's my understanding of it. So yeah, I can't let this fail. I just put too much time, effort, love. I have too many people rooting for me on this one. So I can't. So my schedule is this. I have 3 children and I literally live in my truck. That is not a joke. I live in there, but I have this thing called a cell phone. And this cell phone is the pipeline, the artery that goes to my computer, that goes to the internet where I can answer phones. When my phone rings, I answer it. When it dings, I answer it. The biggest thing is always, I check my emails constantly. So am I, you know, I could be eating lunch. There is never a second in the day where I am not capable of working. How's that?
I like that because everyone like says, "Oh, I'm busy. Sorry, I didn't get back to you." And you're like, "What are you talking about? You're glued to your cell phone for like 2 hours on Instagram and TikTok. You're seeing the dings, and even if you put it on, you know, focus mode, you get home that night, and what do? You look at your messages. It's so darn easy to just message them back. Hey, I'm out at a meeting right now. I'll speak to you tomorrow, right? And how often are people late? And then they come up with some bullshit excuse, and they're like, "Sorry, I was late on the meeting." Blah blah blah. I was like, "Well, why did you not just text me or call me?" And there's a lot of research with this, right? Because when I was in New York City, you know, you couldn't prevent 2 hours of traffic on the BQE or the LA. You know that,
I know that,
right?
yes.
Same with going down to Miami. There's days where like you built in 20 minutes for traffic, and it took you an extra hour due to traffic. And people are normal when you just call them and say, "Hey, look, I am in bumper to bumper. There's a major accident." And they could even call you out on it. You go right to Google Maps. I've called people out. I go to Google Maps when people say they're behind,
God.
and I'm like, they're bullshitting me. And I'm like, I'm not taking this person if they're a new hire or just want to do business with me because they're lying, right? And the best thing about, you know, these cell phones is you could just call them while you're driving. You're not texting then. Say, "Hey, I'm running behind schedule." It takes you 15 seconds, and the person appreciates it so much, and they end up doing business with you. So there is, you know, a lot of books on this topic that people that get that call, they know you appreciate their time and they value you more and then do business with you.
This is something that I picked up, obviously, while I was in the Marine Corps. We have a thing called POS reps, position reports or situation reports. Basically, when you're on a road and, or in the field or, training, you say, boss, this is me. I'm moving northbound on highway, whatever, passing checkpoint 5. So he knows where you are and he knows that you're moving, so that we translate that to non-combat speech. When it's, hey, sir, running a little bit late. I'm about 15 minutes behind the power curve. Over. That's it. And I know you're running late. Hey, while you're out there, because because I know where you were. Hey, you'll be 15 minutes late. The meeting's going to be over. Don't even show up. Don't worry. I'll just meet you at your office. Keep your boss notified of everything, and things will go smooth. If you don't tell him where you are or that you're going to be late, you're not establishing a good relationship with him. Nope.
Well, Eric, we're going to take a quick commercial break to hear
Okay.
from one of our sponsors. And when we get back, we're going to jump to our next segment of the show.
Join the fastest growing community of professionals on the internet with OWL. Access new networks and otherwise unreachable professional contacts through the one-on-one call feature on the app. Scroll through the list of available professionals and join them for a quick call to build rich connections, expand invaluable relationships, and to broaden your professional landscape without needing lofty referrals. OWL. We bring vetted pros to your doorstep 24/7 on demand. Join our community by signing up at owl.com today.
Welcome back to the show. And it's a good thing we jumped into a quick break there. We've got a Scotch whiskey business on the show today. Very exciting episode with Eric. And it was sort of starting to turn into old men yelling at clouds about people being late and stuff. So it's good to come back. And I just want to remind everybody, you heard it just there during the break. OWL, you can reach out to our very special guest, CEO and founder, Eric, on the OWL app. So be sure to do that. Let's try to add a little bit more excitement into this segment of the show with a fantastic product. We've got some students here for my entrepreneurship class, and Ryan's got a question. Ryan?
Hey, thanks for coming out here and listening to us. I really appreciate that. My question is just, where did the name Fior come from?
That's actually a unique story in itself. So my last name is Dominijanni. And I always thought I was going to have my own wine. I make my own wine. I make my own beer. I make my own salami. I make mead. You name it, I make it in my house. And because of my background, I really always thought I was going to have a wine. And what better name? I think Dominijanni. What a great name for the restaurant. What a great name for a wine. So after we had gone into the initial production, we're like, okay, what are we going to call this thing? My buddy Jim, and he's got his clipboard and he's standing like this, and I got a list of names. And I'm like, all right, well, listen, nothing against some of the other alcohols, the spirits out there. But I didn't want to be associated with some of the ones that are, peanut flavored whiskeys or honey flavored scotches. I said, this is pure. This is true. This is unadulterated. This is, just want to keep it in, an Italian name doesn't work with, with a scotch. So I go, what's your first choice? Then he goes, Fior. And I'm like, Jim, Fior is Italian for flower. What did I just say? And he says, Fior is also Scottish Gaelic for pure, true. It's like, okay, that's it. We're done. And he's like, well, don't you want to hear the second one? I'm like, nope, you're going to ruin it. We're done. That just, you're going to ruin it.
Yeah.
So that's how I got the name.
I do like that because most brands that are under 7 characters do the best.
Oh, really?
A lot of research on that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I think it's a great name. Short, concise.
Well, I screwed up my first brand, Client Focused Advisors.
Ooh.
Doesn't fit in social media handles. It's a pain in the butt. It's hard to spell on email, right? And that's where I learned my lesson. That's why my next brand, OWL, OWWLL, short and simple. If you ever build an app, right?
Mm-hmm.
App store, you can't have too many characters, but specifically for marketing purposes,
right.
Big names are a pain in the butt to market. Look at FAU, Adams Center for Entrepreneurship. Now, Kevin didn't make up that name, of course, but it's too long. You can't fit that logo that you see there in many things online. It's
Florida
hard.
Atlantic is
And now they're making it even longer. The marketing department did a good one on that one.
We're rebranding once again. So exciting stuff in the future to come. Ruben, you have a question for our guest today? I know you've always got those killer questions.
So my question was with regards to getting the product to realtors. How did you go about getting in contact with those
or stores that you sell your product in?
Okay, perfect. This is something that was stemmed from the previous question. So what I do during the day, for example, if I'm last week or 2 weeks ago, I was in New York City, and I went out with a bunch of our distributors who already have an affiliation with my my business partner, because I know these distributors, et cetera, et cetera. They already have a connection, a relationship with the liquor store. So I go out with them, and you basically, from that point on, they're just saying, hey, listen, this is a guy, Eric Dominijanni. He has his own scotch. And then I, take it from there. And I try to tell them, this is how many awards I've won. This is what it's made of. These are the selling points. And then the biggest part was, some people don't want to hear the, I hate to say, the fluff. They want to know, look at the bottle. I said, hold this bottle in your hand. And he held it and like, it feels good. Put it up on the shelf. And he's like, look, that bottle stands out. Forget about everything. Forget about if it tastes good.
You stand out.
Yeah. The bottle stands out. You're going to notice that bottle. Then you have this little tag here. You see the advertising. It says a rating, 93. That means something. The gold, the shininess, it stands out. And then it's going to say veteran owned. People are going to buy it because they support veteran businesses. Marines are going to buy it because I'm a Marine. So you have it. Then look at the price. It's comparable. It's a reasonable price. It's nothing too crazy and nothing too cheap. This is a reasonable price. So people are going to buy it.
Were you allowed to put your photo on there? Is that not allowed in the biz?
Well, I put my signature on the back, and that's a major thing for me. And the reason why I did, the first batch that we made, when we went to our initial production, I did not know whether once it got mass produced, if it was going to taste like I wanted it to, like my initial 6 cases. I was like, I don't know. And nothing comes across my table unless I'm proud of it. That's just the way I do business. And I'm not forget about business. That's just the way I live my life. Yeah. If I'm not proud of it, I don't put it out there. So after that initial, production, and when we, I was like, okay, this is good. So I said, now I stand behind this. I'll put my name behind it. So everything from the second batch has my signature on the back. But, to go on with your question really quick was, I went off of the established chain that my friend already had developed for 4 generations being in the alcohol importation, exportation business, in the spirit business. So it's a lot of it just personality driven. You could have a great product, but if you're a fish, no one's going to look at it. If you're bottled, this could be the greatest juice in the world, but if it's a bland, ugly bottle, no one's going to even try it.
So talk to us a little bit more about the price point, and where is it? Is it kind of standardized across your markets, or does it vary? And what is the rationale kind of behind that price point?
Okay, I did it this way. And this is things that I've learned from my buddy Jim, because I was looking at price points, et cetera, et cetera. So it goes for about $40 a bottle in the liquor store. That's what you should go, give or take $1 or $2 based on, the location that you're in.
Okay.
And I wanted to come up with if you go too low, scotches, generally you're targeting a male audience from 35 years and older. You don't usually find 18 years old, drinking scotches, or 21 years old.
We hope we don't find any 18-year-olds.
But you're not going to see an 18-year-old sneaking into his dad's liquor cabinet, slamming down, Johnny Walker Blue or something like that. They're just not going to. They're going to grab something that they're used to, that they know that it's not going to get their father, their grandfather upset. So when does a person start drinking scotch? Usually, like I said, about once they're you graduate college. Hey, son, congratulations. We're going to open up. Your dog died. Oh, I'm sorry. Let's drink. Let's have a scotch. So I needed to price it for a person who probably has a steady income. Right? You might drink a $20 bottle of vodka, but a $20 bottle of scotch probably isn't going to be the greatest. It doesn't say much about that scotch. So $40 seemed to me and my business partners that was a reasonable price for a scotch.
Yeah, so it's one of those unique things about pricing that I sometimes argue about with economists, right? Because they have all these laws, the economists like making rules about stuff, and they say, if the price goes up, they have these curves and that classic graph, then the demand goes down. And it's like, no, not always. That's not a hard and fast rule, because pricing, for our listeners out there and budding entrepreneurs, like, price also signals, right? Like, it signals quality in some instances. And sometimes, yeah, that's right, econ folks. Sometimes when you increase the price, you may increase the demand. So at a higher price, you may sell more units. And then even some instances, you may want to sell less units and then select into like an ultra high price, right? But that has other challenges associated with it, especially when you're starting new, right? This is the best. So it's, $300. It's like, well, I've never heard of it before. So like that could be a challenge. So I think that price point makes a lot of sense.
Right. When I had the initial batch and I put it towards a bunch of Marines, a couple of retirement ceremonies, and some of my friends, they were like, I would pay $70 for this. I would pay $70 for this bottle. And I was like, well, it's a blend. I really had no intention of selling it really at that time, but it was like, it's a blend. And I started learning about Scotch. That's a super premium price. I mean, you don't charge that much for, for a blend. I mean, I'm glad you're willing to pay that much for it, but I'll remember you in the future. I'll charge you more, but
yeah, there you go.
But yeah, so absolutely. So the price is obviously one major catching feature. If you see something that's exceptionally cheap, that might be indicative of the quality. So you got to have a price that shows.
Where does it fall approximately? In the middle ground?
I would say it falls up. This is a super premium blend. So I would say this falls about the higher end of blends.
Okay.
For cost wise, and I believe it's worth it. Otherwise, I wouldn't charge this much for it.
Nice.
Or this little for it.
$40 is very reasonable.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're not sitting there like it's a $500 bottle. And, people are trying to get it in the Caribbean to bring it back at a discount with the duty free shops. But $40 seems to me like it's very reasonable. It reminds me of like the Tito story, right? They price it just right. Where like and then the quality was there, so you got both sides. Like everyone's like, oh, it's a no brainer, right? At $40, it's got a 93 on the bottle. Like you can't get the next jump up is so much more.
Exactly.
And I believe I'm kind of onto something. I don't know. I'm not.
No, you're
I'm not a drinker,
right.
But I just like when I did do my tad of drinking, it was kind of how my mind thought about like, okay, just grab Tito's, can't beat it,
right? And it becomes a household name now for a while.
Yep.
Once you drink it, your friend drinks it, your other friend drinks it, your other friend drinks it after a while. Well, I really don't drink scotch, vodka, rum, whatever, but I had that bottle last week at my friend's house. I've seen it. It stands out. So that the marketing is just huge.
Yeah. All right, let's take one more question.
Hi. I was curious. I'm not really super familiar with the Scotch marketing business or anything like that, but what makes your product more unique or its selling points? What, like, when somebody looks at it, why do they want to choose your Scotch over something else?
All right, there's a litany, and I'll be more than happy to tell you as fast as I can. I am a New Yorker who speaks fast, and I do have caffeine in me. So here we go. Ready? Number one, like I said, why do you want to buy the Scotch? Look at the bottle. Stands out. You put it next to any other bottle out there of Scotches, it just completely stands out. The tag shows the rating. It shows that it is good quality. Doesn't matter if you like Scotch or whatever. You're like, hey, that's got to be a higher end product because it has a gold, a silver, or whatever metal. So when you're looking at a thing like, which Scotch should I use or which rum should I use? The very fact that it's got a 93 and the other one does, it makes you go, hey, that guy, that's standalone. The veteran. Okay, so being a veteran-owned Scotch, what does that do? I know Marines, soldiers, airmen, coasties, zoomies, all these veterans, all of these active duty guys, they're going to buy it to at least try it to help support me, because that's the way we are. The military is a very large, a dysfunctional family, if you will. Okay, so that's another one. The other one, one of the main points, and this is where I get a lot of flack. They're like, well, I only drink single malts. Excuse me. I'm like, okay, I got it. I completely understand that. When you have a product like that, like a single malt, it's like saying, I only eat Italian food from this region. Okay. If you deviate from the recipes and stuff from that region, it is no longer that. And you upset people like my father. You can't add onion to this dish because it's now a completely different dish. The great thing about having a blend is I could take the best elements from all the different regions to create something that you can't find in a single malt or any of the other, like pure, whether it's a vodka, tequila. That's the best part of it. Because, I don't drink Scotch because it's too smoky. I don't drink Scotch because it's too peaty. I don't drink Scotch because of it's this. Well, hold on a sec. if you don't like Scotch because it's too smoky or peaty, what if I told you that I agree with you? So I toned it down a little bit. I put a little bit element of smoke. There's a little element of brine. There's a little element, so everybody can enjoy it. Because if I drink something like some of the other ones that I started drinking, well, wow, it's too intense for me. It's too far left or too far right on the spectrum. When you create a blend, you have the ability, and I would like to say, I created a balance, a very, very well balanced product. That's my selling point.
Nice. Well, I've got a bunch more questions about these rankings and awards and those kind of things, but I'm going to save it for the next segment.
Okay, let's take a quick commercial break to hear from one of our sponsors. We'll be back in a moment.
Step into our state-of-the-art innovation lab and create your digital future. Oz uses cutting-edge technology and 22 years of industry knowledge to enhance customer experience through digital innovation in a variety of expertise. Oz is a leading global consulting company whose services and solutions are trusted by startup, midsize, and even Fortune 500 companies. Get to know more about Oz's Salus, a mobile solution bringing us back to max capacity, and their latest solution, Rainmaker, saving insurance companies years of work. To learn more about Oz and their exciting technologies, visit followoz.com. That's FOLLOWOZ.com.
Oh, sorry.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to this episode. If you want to watch the film version, of course, head over to shrimptankpodcast.com. We put the video of every episode right up on our website or on our YouTube account. Okay, so Eric, on this part of the segment, it's called Plead the Fifth. We're going to ask you a question, and you can only plead the fifth one time. Okay? So be careful.
Right.
If you plead the fifth two times, you can't air the episode. Kevin doesn't allow it up on our website, so be careful. Okay, so give us the wildest story. Being in the Marines, it could have been, you were put on a mission and something went wrong, something went right. Just tell us a crazy story.
Okay,
that people don't often hear.
All right. So Marines have a very sick sense of humor. I mean, just absolutely, it's hilarious. We call it gallows humor because we take times of adversity and we make it the norm. So I know when we have, we tell these jokes, people look at us and you're just sick individuals, and we just laugh at you, So I'm going to try to put the one that's probably the most toned down for the civilian populace. We were in Iraq, and I was listening on the radio. I was in the command vehicle, and then I hear somebody calling over the net, and it's like, basically like headquarters. This is, Echo 5 Lima. Would be his nickname or his call sign, if you will. And he's like, hey, we need a new set of NBC, nuclear, biological, and chemical suits. And in the background, you could hear somebody screaming. And you just hear these Marines laughing. And he's like, get it off me. Get it off me. And we're like, you need a new uniform? Like, what happened? And I'm monitoring the net, and I could hear all this on the logistics chain. And he's like, yeah, we need a new NBC suit and a new set of boots and a new, like, what do you mean? Like, did you lose it? And I could hear all the traffic, and they were screaming. The background is getting louder. And finally the sergeant just starts laughing. The Marine fell in a open sewer. Oh. So the story is he was like, he was just covered in filth, and then no one wanted to help him out. They were like,
yeah,
don't touch me. So, you learn how to find sometimes the most hilarious parts in the worst scenarios.
All right, I'll start with an easy one. You alluded to some locations you really didn't like. Let's put one on blast. What is the worst place?
North Carolina. North Carolina. You don't even have to ask me that question. In North Carolina.
Really?
I was there for whenever I was in a station that I didn't like, they would extend me there. So everyone would say in the Marine Corps, 29 Palms is the worst duty station you could ever be. It's the middle of a desert. There's nothing there. There's no offense. There's no women, no nightclubs. There's no booze. There's no good food. I mean, but at least you're in the middle of nowhere, but you're the center of everything. You're 2.5 hours from Vegas, 2 hours from LA. I mean, this is phenomenal. Lejeune, North Carolina. If you were a New Yorker or a Yankee of any form, and you're a city boy, and you're half Italian, it is hell. It was. I just would like to get.
This is quite revealing.
Oh, this is horrible.
North Carolina is evaluated as worse than 120-degree middle of the desert.
Yes.
Man, that really
Because you
speaks
can't
to the
get-
quality.
You can't get away from it. And you'd go there and you're sitting there, I just want to get something good to eat. And it's like, okay, I'm trying to find an Italian restaurant. Okay, let's go to Olive Garden. I'm like, I'm sorry, my last name ends in a vowel. I can't eat there.
Yeah, they got good breadsticks at least.
Yeah, that's what they always say. I would get that, that in a salad bar. Like, hey, can we I'd like to have a martini. I remember walking into a bar. I just checked in. I was like, I'll have a martini. We're celebrating. We're all in our uniforms. And then she makes me a margarita. And I'm like, excuse me, ma'am, I asked for a martini. And she's like, oh, we don't do that here. And I looked behind her and I'm like, vodka, gin, vermouth, martini glasses. Okay, yeah, I can see that. So yeah, it was the armpit, if you will, of the culinary world, if you ask me. I have no problem saying that.
All right.
Okay, let's start with some hardballs.
Okay.
Come on.
Yeah,
Plead the
I told
fifth.
you what I was going to get to, right? So let's talk about how your Scotch whiskey has been able to achieve all of these awards
I was
and these
gonna go there.
scores, right?
Okay.
Like now, supposedly these are totally up and up blind taste tests, but it's your first beverage out the gate. You had a lot of help. You have a lot of industry connections. Did you do anything to expedite or aid in your case for getting those awards?
No, not at all. I think the reason why of course, I'm not going to say I'm putting out a bad product. Let's be honest, right? But when you think of Scotch, you're thinking of all the competitors that have been out there for a long time, that have been making it the same exact way for 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years. Don't you get tired of that after a while? Don't you want to try something new? So I come in with, name me another veteran-owned Scotch. Maybe another Scotch that's made by an American. Maybe another Scotch owned by a New Yorker.
Are there many veteran owns
This is the one.
alcohol brands in general?
Oh, yeah, alcohol brands. Yes, this is the one and only veteran-owned Scotch. I can go into like all my ethnicities and me. This is the only Scotch owned by a guy in Queens, probably.
So this is interesting. So when they're doing these awards and taste testing and things, do they get then the whole case, all right? Like the case for that product, meaning the bottle, the design, the logo, the story.
Yeah,
Okay.
I haven't
So
been-
they're evaluating the total
Yes.
package as opposed to just like, I
vial.
envision, a little tiny, like blind.
I cannot say, and it's not that I'm pleading the fifth for this one. I just have not, because I submit the bottles. I'm not sure what happens if it gets broken down into tasters. I'm assuming that's going to be part of it. It's supposed to be a blind test for some of them.
Yeah.
Other places they go, hey, it's a beautiful bottle. So
Well, I mean, that makes sense to me.
Right.
I mean, a lot of the stuff's so highly regulated. There are a lot of similarities. So.
Right. So it's, to me, what makes it, the other thing that makes standalone, I was saying before, why would I win? Because it's just different sometimes. You get tired of a pizza, get a calzone. Let me get a Sicilian, right? I'm tired of Chinese food today. Let's go for Japanese, So.
All right. Fair enough. What you got for him, Jason?
Well, he sounds like he's been to a lot of bars and restaurants in Miami, right? Living down there for almost 10 years now, he mentioned, and visiting his whole life. So I got to believe he's caught a couple that have been watering down some drinks, and he might know some bars, and he's like, I can't believe they would do that. He absolutely hates them, but they're popular bar or restaurant. Have you caught any down there that are playing games? I know that was big in New York, right?
I didn't drink when
A
I
little
was
extra
in New York.
water,
I couldn't
a
afford
little extra profit.
I couldn't afford drinks when I was in New York. I wasn't able. You asked me all these great questions about restaurants in New York, and I was like, I was
Yeah, you
broke.
didn't go there.
Yeah, I graduated college. and I
Miami
went-
pricing, yes.
Yeah, so
But nothing in Miami. You didn't find, like, I just feel like
I've
there's always
seen-
new people popping up, and then they're just
There's
they're in
some-
it for the money, and then they're
I've seen some
shady.
I've seen
right?
some very horrible things in the restaurant business. Remember, I am a chef. For those of you who don't know, I went up against Bobby Flay many years ago. Throw down with Bobby Flay.
Oh, nice.
Season 1, episode 5. I actually beat him. I filleted Bobby Flay, according to my friends.
Nice.
So I've been, cooking is in my blood. I hold restaurants like a church. You go to eat, that's like me going to church. It's a prayer thing. So the worst things I've seen in Miami, I didn't experience this. My friends experienced it. I read about it, and to know someone who's also in the restaurant business who experienced it was probably the most amazing thing. It was, if you're down there, do not go to a restaurant and order food unless the price is on the menu. Because what this bar in South Beach was doing, and I'm not sure which one, they had a menu that they did not put the prices on. So when you got your menu, I mean, you got your bill at the end of the meal, it was like $2,000.
Yeah, that's not cool.
And they're targeting tourists because South Beach has a lot of tourists that come in and out. So my friends were like, whoa, let's see our bill. And they only ordered 2 main courses and 2 drinks, and their bill was something like $500 to $700.
Yeah.
And they literally just added a zero. So the complaints went up and
Yeah,
blah, blah,
that's
blah.
not
And they said, oh, yeah, we don't condone that. We didn't, which
the
is,
server put an extra zero in there. He made
Yeah, and
a
we know that's
manual
not
error. Yeah.
I've been to restaurants where they double charge you a lot. You order 1 drink, they charge you for 2. And then you always look at your bill. And I'm not saying I'm just saying all of Miami, especially in the South Beach area. So.
All right. Well, talking about things that are overpriced, what's the most overpriced Scotch brand in your opinion?
That is something I can't speak of. Again, not pleading the fifth. I just can't. There's some my
That's plead the fifth if you can't say it.
No, yeah, it's I'll talk all day long. There's no secrets for me. I have a big mouth. But there is some. I can't say there was a Scotch because for you it's worth $137 a bottle. To you, it's not. I'll use one, Talisker. Anywhere from, depending on which one you get, $55 to $75 a bottle. Okay, at the time. To me, it's worth it. But to you, it's too that smoke, that peat, it's horrible. Why would you pay so much money for it? I don't know, because I liked it. That's so I can't. Scotch is a very unique thing. It's a very, I won't say adult beverage. I would say almost professional, mature beverage. And again, if you're drinking something like that, you're probably a little bit older in life. You're probably a little bit more financially secure. So I can't really say that there is a Scotch or a whiskey that I find overpriced, because if it's priced that way, that means people are willing to buy it, or people are used to paying that much money to buy it. There's some things I'm just not a fan of, but that's just my personal taste.
So when did you, this isn't, I think, a hard question, but it's just a setup. So
Okay.
when did you really get into the market, get into the first stores, get
Okay, so
really going?
And did you self-fund this thing?
No. Okay, so you can't make money without having money. If you don't think that's true, you're living a lie. You want to get a job interview, you need a coat and tie, suit and coat and tie. That costs money. How are you to get there? You need a car, you need a train pass, something like that. So the smart move is not to use your money, use other people's money. There's nothing wrong with that. Investors, that's why you're going to college right now, using your money. Some of you are, some of you using loans. That's a later money. Maybe your father, maybe your uncle is helping pay for you. So the best thing to do is not dip into your money. So what you do, you get investors, people who stand by a product. In fact, I have a meeting today. You bring them the bottle, let them say they loved what it stood for, they loved how it tastes, and then say, yo, this is a solid bottle, this is a solid product. This is something that I really, really want to stand behind. But how did I get into the I'm sorry, you have to repeat your question.
I was thinking when, but then I was depending on where you ask, I was going to ask you about how much you have at risk. But so you have taken outside funding from investors early on, or
yes, from
later?
the very, very beginning. That was because I have my buddy, my business partner. It's hard to say business partner, buddy, because there's times we put one hat on and then we take
absolutely
it off. We
sure.
disagree,
Mentor.
and then we take the hat off, and then we're friends again. So he basically, because he already has investors for when he had Hypnotic, or when he had Frisky Whiskey, or some Sia, or some of the other alcohol labels that him or his family were involved in. So it's very easy to say, hey, I was successful with this alcohol. I was successful with this alcohol. You made money off of this alcohol, this alcohol, this alcohol, this alcohol. I have a new one. And because of that, it's very easy for someone like him to walk in the door and say, hey, millionaire boss.
So how much, if you're not going to plead the fifth, you said, how much did he put into the business? Jim's your guy.
Yeah.
So will you tell our audience, was it 2 million, 10 million, 14 million? Give us the number, approximately how much he put invest, or plead the fifth.
No, I'm not. I don't know. Actually, I don't know exactly how much money that he put in. of his own money. No, I don't. But I will tell you
the
this.
company money.
No, because he is a little bit more well established than I am.
Okay.
So I really couldn't tell you exactly.
Okay, then I'll have one that you have to answer or plead the fifth.
Okay, go for it.
You're very close to this person.
Okay.
What is your biggest pet peeve of that person? Or just that's too much. We're on film right now. I don't want to answer. I plead the fifth.
I will tell you this.
Plead the fifth. Don't do it.
And it's the it's not a pet peeve. There's two Jims. There's two Eric Dominijannis. Okay, that's what it comes down to. So I could talk to him. Hey, how's it going? Blah blah blah. We talk about our family. Talk about our kids.
Okay.
We talk blah blah blah. And then the hat suddenly changes, and then it's like, he goes like business mode.
Yeah,
on me, and then it's like,
okay,
and then he flips. Like there's no transition into it. He just literally goes from one to the other, and it's not a bad thing because usually, before this, we spoke only as friends, and when he speaks to other people, he only speaks business. I'm kind of in that gray area, so the minute I mention something, he just changes. That, and there was one more. It's not just necessarily a bad thing. I was in the military. I do things differently. I have different expectations. I might sound like I have a very charming personality and all that other great stuff, and I think I do. But my expectations for my workers are, I have very, very high expectations, and I understand he's a civilian. He can't do certain things that I do or talk to people the certain way that I might talk to for, legal reasons or liability and stuff like that. But reality is, when I see not just him, but other business owners talk, I'm like, why don't you just grab that person and throw them against the wall and make them do their job? You can't do that.
So in today's society, no way.
Yeah, you can't.
HR would want to chime in onto that.
Yeah. So when we were having some problems with some distributors, I'm like, hey, let's go take a couple of pipes, and go down there and talk to them. And I got alligators in the Everglades, and we could take care of this. You can't do that. So I just cringe sometimes listening to him having to be somewhat diplomatic.
All right. Well, we've got to wrap this up. That one wasn't answered. The other two, it was as if he put his attorney hat on.
Yeah.
But that brings me to one final one then. What is the most annoying, painful distributor you've had to work with?
That I will plead the fifth on.
Oh,
there we go.
Yeah, that one I will plead.
So you're still working with him, I take it.
Oh, yeah. And you never know. You can't burn your bridges because at the end of the day, if you just are doing a horrible job and I switch over to you, you might do an even more horrible job.
Yeah,
so my only alternative is to go back. So yes, I will plead the fifth on that.
All right, we got one.
Right,
there we go.
So Eric, if we want to buy this scotch, where can we buy it locally around here?
Okay, first of all, you can order it online. We just moved to a new distributor. You can get it at www.fiorscotch.com. You will find it online. We will be available in Florida any day now. You can find it in New York. You can find it in South Carolina, Texas, and Atlanta, Georgia. You can look at Total Wine and Liquor. I mean, we just got accepted into Total Wines in New York, I believe, as well in Florida. And there's just some of the larger Texas has Total Wine as well. So,
nice, congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And then other than that, if you can't find it, you go online and it'll be delivered to you.
Hey, everything online. So that's all we need to know. Go right on to the website, order it, get it to your door in a few days. Awesome. Well, Eric, thank you for joining us on the Shrimp Tank today. For everyone listening, we'll be back next Wednesday around 1 p.m. Take care.
Chill.
Like a shark in a shrimp tank. Big fish, small pond in the shrimp tank. When it take a swim, only option is to win. In the murky water, not a thought of giving in. Welcome to the shrimp tank. Doing big things, chasing big dreams. Yeah, it's all real. This life's all that it seems. All the chicks scream, all the dudes yell. This is just what I do, and I do it well. With the flow fresher than the new shoe smell. Going through hell, but homie, keep going. You know the saying, you can reap what you sow in. So I don't chase girls, I just chase dreams. Play the same game, but we ain't in the same league.